The stars outside the window were cold and distant, just like everyone else on Station Helix 9. Stood at the glass, watching the slow rotation of the galaxy beyond. Behind her, the sounds of the Academy cafeteria filled the air. Laughter, shouting, the clatter of trays. She did not turn around. She had learned long ago that it was better not to be seen. Her younger brother sat at a small table in the corner, eating his food quickly. He was 14 years old, thin and pale blue like all people. His eyes moved constantly, watching the room, watching for danger. This was how they lived now, always watching, always waiting. The Galactic Academy was supposed to be a place of learning. Students from 100 different star systems came here to study. The children of diplomats, military commanders, and wealthy merchants filled its halls. They came from powerful families. They had names that meant something. And had nothing. Their parents were dead. There was gone. The people had been conquered decades ago, scattered across the galaxy like dust in the wind. Now they worked as servants and laborers. They were refugees with no place to call home. Was 17 years old. She had soft features and dark eyes that seemed too old for her face. She moved quietly, spoke rarely, and tried her best to be invisible. This was not easy. The other students saw her blue skin and knew what she was. They saw weakness. They saw prey. She walked back to the table and sat across from. He looked up at her with worried eyes. "They are watching us again," he whispered. Did not need to look. She knew who he meant. Across the cafeteria, a group of students sat at a large table. They wore expensive clothes and carried themselves with the confidence of those who had never known fear. Their leader was a young man named. Was the son of Warlord, a powerful military commander whose family had conquered dozens of star systems. The people were tall and strong, with gray skin and sharp features. They believed in power above all else. They believed the weak existed to serve the strong. Had decided that, and were his favorite targets. "Just ignore them," said softly. "Finish your food." Nodded and continued eating, but his hands were shaking. Noticed this but said nothing. What could she say? That everything would be all right, that the bullying would stop. She would not lie to her brother. The trouble started 3 months ago when they first arrived at the academy. A charity program had placed them here, one of many attempts by the Galactic Council to help refugee children. The program gave them food, shelter, and education, but it could not give them protection. On their first day, had walked up to and asked her what species she was. When she answered, he had laughed. His friends had laughed with him. From that moment on, they had made the siblings' lives miserable. They tripped in the corridors. They destroyed homework. They stole their food. They said terrible things about their dead parents and lost. And they did all of this while smiling because they knew no one would stop them. His father funded the academy. His money paid for the buildings, the teachers, the security drones. No one would punish his son. Had learned to endure. She apologized when they insulted her. She cleaned up the messes they made. She held his hand when he cried at night. She told him that things would get better, even though she did not believe it herself. But there was something the other students did not know. Something kept hidden deep inside herself like a secret flame. Before coming to the academy, and had spent 6 years on a planet called New. It was a human colony world, far from the main centers of galactic civilization. Their refugee transport had crashed there when was 11 years old. They were the only survivors. The humans had taken them in. A woman named Captain Park, a decorated veteran of the Earth Defense Coalition, had become their guardian. She had looked at the traumatized girl and seen something special. She had seen the fierce way protected her brother. She had seen the fire in her eyes, hidden beneath the fear. For 6 years had trained, not just in combat but in the human way of thinking about violence. The humans had a philosophy that was different from any other species in the galaxy. They believed that violence should always be the last answer, but when it was the answer, it had to be absolute. Had learned to fight like a human. She had learned to wait and watch and endure. She had learned to hide her true strength until the moment it was needed. She had become the first non-human ever certified in integrated human combat doctrine, a system of fighting that combined ancient Earth martial arts with modern military techniques. But before left knew, had made her promise something. You only reveal what you are when there is no other choice, had said. Do you understand? The galaxy is not ready to know what you can do. Hide it, protect it. Use it only when lives are at stake. Had promised, and she had kept that promise, even when spat on her face, even when his friends kicked to the ground, even when every part of her wanted to show them what she really was. She looked at her brother now and felt her heart ache. He was so young. He had already suffered so much. All she wanted was to give him a normal life, a safe life. But safety was hard to find when you were a refugee in a galaxy that did not care about you. Sister said quietly, why do they hate us? Reached across the table and took his hand. They do not hate us, they fear us. Fear us looked confused. But we are weak, everyone says so. They fear what they do not understand, said. We are different. We survived when others did not. That makes them uncomfortable. It is easier to hurt us than to think about why we make them feel that way. Considered this, that is stupid. Despite everything, smiled. Yes, it is very stupid. The cafeteria bell rang, signaling the end of the meal period. Students began to stand and collect their things, helped gather his books, and they walked toward the exit together. They almost made it. Appeared in front of them, blocking the doorway. His friend stood behind him, grinning. The other students in the cafeteria pretended not to notice. They kept their heads down and walked past quickly. No one wanted to get involved. Where are you going, little refugees? Asked. His voice was friendly, but his eyes were cruel. Kept her gaze on the floor. To class. Look at me when I speak to you. Slowly raised her eyes. She met stare without expression. Behind her, pressed close, his body trembling. Leaned forward. I heard you did well on the tactical simulation yesterday, better than me. His jaw tightened. That must be a mistake. There is no way a refugee is smarter than me. Said nothing. I think you cheated, continued, and I think you need to learn your place. He looked past her at, maybe I should teach your brother instead. He seems like a slow learner. His hands curled into fists at her sides, but she kept her voice calm. Please leave us alone. Laughed, please leave us alone, he repeated in a mocking voice. His friends laughed with him. You are all the same, weak, pathetic, born to be servants. He stepped aside and gestured toward the door. Go to your class, refugees. We will continue this lesson later. Took's hand and walked past them. She did not look back. She could feel their eyes on her, hungry for a reaction. She gave them nothing. But inside, deep where no one could see, the flame burned brighter. 3 days passed after the confrontation in the cafeteria. Tried to keep close, but the academy was large and their schedules were different. She could not protect him every moment of every day. This worried her constantly. She knew was planning something. She could see it in his eyes whenever they crossed paths in the corridors. He was waiting for the right moment. That moment came on a quiet afternoon when was stuck in an advanced mathematics class. The lesson ran late because the teacher wanted to explain a difficult concept. Tried to focus, but her mind kept wandering to her brother. Something felt wrong. She could not explain it, but there was a cold feeling in her stomach that would not go away. When the class finally ended, she gathered her things quickly and hurried toward the recreational dome where usually waited for her. The dome was a large open space with artificial trees and grass, designed to give students a taste of nature while living on a space station. It was supposed to be a peaceful place. Today it was not peaceful. Heard the shouting before she entered. She broke into a run, her heart pounding in her chest. When she pushed through the doors, she saw a crowd of students standing in a circle. They were laughing and pointing at something on the ground. She pushed through them, lay on the artificial grass, curled into a ball. Blood ran from his nose and a cut on his forehead. His left arm was bent at a wrong angle, clearly broken. He was crying softly, trying to protect his face with his good hand. Stood over him, adjusting his uniform like nothing had happened. His 4 friends stood nearby, still laughing. Security drones hovered in the air above them, watching with their cameras. But they did not move. They did not help. They were programmed to protect Academy property, not students. And even if they were, his father owned them. Time seemed to slow down. Walked forward and the crowd parted for her. She did not look at them. She only looked at her brother, broken and bleeding on the ground. 6 years of training rushed through her mind. 6 years of hiding, waiting, pretending to be weak. She heard Captain's voice in her memory. You only reveal what you are when there is no other choice. Was this the moment? Was there truly no other choice? She knelt beside and touched his face gently. He looked up at her with frightened eyes. I am sorry, sister, he whispered. I tried to run away. I tried to be invisible like you taught me. Said softly, you did nothing wrong. A shadow fell over them, was standing above her now, looking down with a satisfied smile. Finally, he said, the other one arrives. I was beginning to think you did not care about your pathetic brother. Did not respond. She was looking at his arm. The bone was clearly broken. He needed medical attention soon, or the damage could become permanent. Look at me when I speak to you, grabbed by the collar of her uniform and pulled her to her feet. He was strong, much stronger than her body. He lifted her easily until her feet barely touched the ground. I am tired of you ignoring me. I am tired of you acting like you are better than everyone else. The crowd had gone quiet. Everyone was watching. Some students had taken out their communication devices to record what was happening. This was entertainment for them. This was funny. Your brother cried like a baby, said, his face close to hers. He begged me to stop. He called for you, but you were not here. Some protector you are. He laughed. Now it is your turn. Get on your knees and beg me to let you go. Beg me, and maybe I will not break your arm too. Looked past him at his friends. Then she looked at the crowd of students watching with empty eyes. Then she looked at the security drones that did nothing. Finally, she looked at, still lying on the ground, still crying. Something inside her shifted. It was like a door opening, a door she had kept locked for years. Behind it was everything Captain had taught her, every technique, every lesson, every truth about what it meant to fight like a human. Violence is the last answer, but when it is the answer, it must be absolute. Met's eyes. Her fear was gone. In its place was something cold and still, like the surface of a frozen lake. You have made a mistake, she said. Her voice was different now. Flat, calm, empty of emotion. It did not sound like the voice of a frightened refugee girl. It sounded like something else entirely. Frowned. This was not the reaction he expected. What did you say? I said you have made a mistake. Opened his mouth to respond, but he never got the chance. Moved. It was so fast that most of the watching students did not even see what happened. One moment was holding her by the collar. The next moment he was on the ground, screaming in pain. His shoulder was dislocated, twisted at an unnatural angle. His friends reacted on instinct. The first one charged at with his fists raised. She stepped to the side, grabbed his arm, and used his own momentum to throw him into the second friend. They both went down hard and did not get up. The third friend tried to grab her from behind, ducked under his arms, drove her elbow into his stomach, and then struck the side of his neck with the edge of her hand. He collapsed, gasping for air, unable to move. The fourth friend did not even try to fight. He turned and ran, pushing through the crowd, screaming for help. 4 seconds, that was all it took. Stood in the center of the fallen bodies, breathing steadily. She had not broken a sweat. Her uniform was not even wrinkled. Around her, the recreational dome had gone completely silent. Every student was staring with wide eyes, their mouths hanging open. The security drones hovered in place, their cameras recording everything. Was still on the ground, clutching his ruined shoulder. Tears streamed down his gray face. What are you?" he gasped. Did not answer him. She turned and walked back too. Kneeling beside him, she carefully helped him sit up. His eyes were wide with shock. "Sister," he whispered, you promised you would never show them." Looked at his broken arm, at the blood on his face, at the fear in his eyes. She thought about all the months of suffering, all the insults and attacks and humiliation. She thought about how tired she was of hiding. "I know," she said softly, "but some promises are meant to be broken." She picked up her brother gently, cradling him in her arms like he weighed nothing. The crowd parted as she walked toward the exit. No one tried to stop her. No one said a word. As she passed through the doors, she heard his voice behind her, weak and filled with pain. "You will pay for this. My father will destroy you. You are dead." Did not look back. She kept walking, carrying toward the medical bay. Her mind was already moving forward, thinking about what would happen next. She had revealed herself. There was no going back now. The secret was out. The galaxy would know. Part of her was afraid, but another part of her, a deeper part, felt something she had not felt in a long time. Relief. She was tired of pretending. She was tired of being weak when she was not weak. She was tired of watching her brother suffer while she did nothing. Whatever came next, she would face it, not as a helpless refugee, not as a victim, as what she truly was. The medical bay doors opened, and a doctor rushed forward to take from her arms, watched as they placed him on a bed and began treating his injuries. His eyes found hers across the room. "Will we be okay?" he asked. Smiled at him. It was a small smile, but it was real. "We will be okay," she said. "I promise." This time she meant it. The video spread across the station within hours. By the next morning, it had reached every corner of the galaxy. The footage showed everything. A small girl, thin and delicate, taking down 4 larger opponents in less than 5 seconds. Her movements were unlike anything anyone had ever seen. They were precise, efficient, and devastatingly effective. Military analysts who watched the video could not identify the fighting style. It did not match any known galactic combat system. Except one. Academy director sat in her office, watching the video for the 15th time. She was an older woman from the species, with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. In her 40 years of running educational institutions, she had never seen anything like this. "This is impossible," she said. "They are the most peaceful species in the galaxy. They have no warriors, no military tradition. This girl should not be able to do what she did." Her assistant, a nervous young man named, stood by the door. "The embassy has already sent 17 messages, Director. Warlord is demanding the girl's arrest. He is threatening to withdraw all funding from the academy." Director waved her hand dismissively. "Let him threaten. I want to know how a refugee child learned to fight like that. Those movements, that speed, that control. She did not learn this in a refugee camp." Before could respond, the door chimed. A visitor was waiting outside. "Enter," Director said. The door opened, and a human woman walked in. She wore a gray military uniform with the insignia of the Earth Defense Coalition on her shoulder. Her black hair was cut short, and her face was calm and controlled. She moved with the easy confidence of someone who had spent their life in positions of authority. "Director," the woman said, "I am Commander Han, diplomatic from the Earth Coalition. I apologize for arriving without an appointment, but I believe you have questions that only I can answer." Director studied the human with interest. Humans were relatively new to galactic affairs. Their home system had only made contact with the wider galaxy about a century ago. They were considered minor players, neither particularly strong nor particularly weak. They mostly kept to themselves. "Please sit down, Commander," the director said. "Yes, I do have questions. The girl who caused this incident, her fighting style. My analysts cannot identify it." Commander sat in the chair across from the director's desk. "That is because your analysts have never seen integrated human combat doctrine. We do not share it with other species." "Integrated human combat doctrine," director repeated slowly. "I have never heard of it. Few outside of Earth have. It is a system developed over thousands of years, combining ancient fighting arts from our with modern military techniques. It is taught only to members of the Earth Defense Coalition, only to soldiers who have proven themselves worthy." Director leaned forward. "You are saying this girl learned a human fighting system. How is that possible? She is not human." Commander smiled slightly. "No, she is not, but she was raised by humans. She lived on the colony world new for 6 years. She was trained by one of our most decorated veterans, Captain Park." The director was silent for a long moment. This was not what she had expected. A trained by humans, it seemed impossible, and yet the evidence was right there on her screen. "Tell me everything," she said. Commander nodded. 6 years ago, a refugee transport carrying survivors crashed on New. There were only 2 survivors, a girl named then 11 years old and her younger brother. They were found by Captain Park during a routine patrol. The commander's eyes grew distant as if she was seeing something far away. "Captain is not a soft woman. She has fought in 3 major conflicts. She has killed more enemies than she can count. But when she found those 2 children, alone and terrified in the wreckage, something in her changed. She took them in. She adopted them, unofficially at first, then legally. She gave them a home. She taught them our language, our customs, our way of seeing the world. And when she saw the fire in his eyes, the way she protected her brother at all costs, she made a decision that had never been made before." Director already knew what was coming. She trained her. "Yes, for 6 years, Captain trained in everything she knew: combat, strategy, discipline, the human philosophy of war." Commander paused. "Do you know what makes human soldiers different from warriors of other species, Director?" "I have heard many theories. Let me tell you the truth. We do not believe in violence for its own sake. We do not seek battle for glory or honor. Violence to us is always the last answer. We avoid it whenever possible. We prefer peace. We prefer negotiation. We will suffer insults and provocations without responding." Commander's voice grew harder. "But when violence becomes necessary, when there is no other choice, we become something else entirely. We become absolute. We hold nothing back. We do not stop until the threat is eliminated. This is what we call the human way of war." Director thought about the video. The way had stood there taking abuse for months. The way she had never fought back, never showed her true abilities, until her brother was broken on the ground before her. "She was trained to wait," the director said slowly, "to hide her strength until it was truly needed." "Exactly. Is the first non-human ever certified in integrated human combat doctrine. She passed every test. She earned her certification through blood and sweat and years of training. She is, in every way that matters, a human-trained soldier." The director sat back in her chair, processing this information. The implications were enormous. With human combat training, a refugee girl who could defeat warriors twice her size. The galaxy had never seen anything like this. "What happens now?" she asked. Commander stood. "Now the galaxy learns the truth. The video is already everywhere. Soon, everyone will know that is human-trained. And soon, Warlord will arrive to demand justice for his son. His son attacked her brother. His son broke a child's arm." "Do you think he cares about that?" Commander shook her head. "He cares only about his honor. His son was defeated by a girl, in public, on camera. This is a humiliation he cannot accept." Director felt a chill run down her spine. He will come here. He is already on his way. His warship left space 6 hours ago. He will arrive within 2 days. And what will happen then? Commander walked to the door. She paused with her hand on the frame and looked back at the director. That depends on whether Warlord remembers one important fact. Is not just a girl who learned to fight. She is a protected citizen of the Earth Coalition. She carries our training, our philosophy, our way of life inside her. The commander's eyes were cold. She is, for all practical purposes, one of us, and humans do not abandon their own. She walked out of the office, leaving director alone with the video still playing on her screen. The director watched its movements again, frame by frame, so fast, so controlled, so deadly. And yet, after defeating her enemies, had simply picked up her brother and walked away. She had not hurt anyone more than necessary. She had not continued the violence once the threat was ended. That was the human way, director realized. Violence as the last answer, but when it comes, absolute. She hoped Warlord understood what he was about to face. She suspected he did not. The warship arrived at Station Helix 9 on the morning of the 3rd day. It was a massive vessel, bristling with weapons, its dark hull decorated with the symbols of 100 conquered worlds. It dwarfed the station, casting a shadow across the viewport windows. Warlord stood on the bridge of his ship, looking at the station with contempt. He was a large man, even for a. His gray skin was marked with scars from decades of battle. His eyes were cold and merciless. He had crushed rebellions, destroyed fleets, and conquered entire star systems. He was not accustomed to being challenged. And now a girl had humiliated his son. On camera, in front of the entire galaxy. "Open a channel to the station," he commanded. The communication screen flickered to life, showing director's worried face. Behind her could see the girl standing quietly with her brother. Guards surrounded them, but they did not seem frightened. This irritated him. Director said, "I have come for the criminal who attacked my son. You will surrender her to me immediately, along with her brother. They will face justice." Director straightened her spine. "Warlord, the incident was thoroughly investigated. Your son initiated the confrontation. He broke the arm of a 14-year-old child. The girl was defending her brother. I do not care about your investigation. I care about my honor. My son was defeated by a servant. This insult cannot stand." Leaned forward. "Give them to me, director, or I will take them myself." Before the director could respond, another voice cut through the channel. "I would not recommend that course of action, Warlord." The screen split, and a new face appeared. Commander Han sat on the bridge of a human battlecruiser, her expression calm and controlled. Behind her could see the activity of a military vessel preparing for combat. "Who are you?" demanded. "Commander Han, Earth Defense Coalition. I am here on behalf of the human government." Laughed. It was a harsh, mocking sound. "The humans? What interest do the humans have in a refugee?" Park is a protected citizen of the Earth Coalition. She was legally adopted by one of our officers. She carries our training and our certification. An attack on her is an attack on humanity. The warlord's laughter faded. He studied the human woman's face, looking for signs of fear or weakness. He found none. This bothered him more than he wanted to admit. "You are one battle cruiser," he said slowly. "I have a warship with enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Do you truly think you can threaten me?" Commander smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "I am not threatening you, Warlord. I am informing you of the consequences of your actions. If you attempt to harm or her brother, humanity will respond." "Respond how? You humans are weak. Everyone knows this. You hide on your colony worlds. You avoid conflict. You have no real military power." "Is that what you believe?" "It is what I know." Commander nodded slowly. "Then let me educate you." She pressed a button on her console. On Station Helix 9, every screen and viewport displayed the same image: the human battlecruiser, the Soul's Resolve, rotating in space. It was smaller than the warship, sleeker and less imposing. It looked almost fragile in comparison. Then the Soul's Resolve fired. A single kinetic round launched from its main cannon at incredible speed. It crossed 300 kilometers of space in less than a second and struck an asteroid that was floating peacefully in the distance. The asteroid, larger than the station itself, vaporized instantly. One moment it was there. The next moment, it was a cloud of dust expanding in all directions. There was no explosion, no fire, just complete and total annihilation. The station shook from the shockwave. Alarms blared briefly before being silenced. Every person watching, whether on the station or the warship, stared in stunned silence. Commander's voice returned to the communication channel. That was a standard kinetic round, Warlord. Not our best weapon, not even close to our best weapon, just a simple demonstration of what we can do. His face had gone pale. His officers behind him were whispering to each other, fear evident in their voices. The tactical displays on his bridge were updating rapidly, recalculating threat assessments. "The next round will not miss," Commander continued. "Stand down, Warlord. Your son started a fight with a human-trained soldier. He lost. Accept it and leave this station in peace." Gripped the arms of his command chair. His pride demanded that he fight. His honor demanded that he crush these arrogant humans and take what was his. But his survival instincts were screaming at him to retreat. He had conquered many worlds. He had won many battles, but he had won them by knowing when he was outmatched. "You cannot protect her forever," he growled. "We do not need to protect her forever. We only need to protect her right now. And right now, my weapons are locked onto your ship. Make your choice, Warlord." The bridge of the warship was silent. Every officer waited for their commander's decision, looked at the tactical display, at the readings from the asteroid that no longer existed, at the cold confidence in the human woman's eyes. He had forgotten something important about humans. Everyone said they were weak. Everyone said they avoided conflict. But there was another thing everyone said about them, a thing he had dismissed as propaganda. Humans did not abandon their own. Slowly, reluctantly, Warlord gave the order to power down his weapons. The tension on Station Helix 9 broke like a wave. People who had been holding their breath finally exhaled. Director slumped in her chair with relief. Guards lowered weapons they had been prepared to use, but stood motionless, watching She watched the warship begin to turn away from the station. She watched the Soul's Resolve maintain its position, weapons still ready, until the enemy was in full retreat. Tugged at her sleeve. His arm was in a healing cast, but his eyes were bright with wonder. "Sister, they came for us. The humans came for us." Nodded slowly. "Yes, they did." "Why, we are not really human, we are." Thought about Captain. She thought about 6 years of training, of meals shared together, of lessons taught with patience and care. She thought about the day had given her a certification that said, in official human military records, that was one of them. "To them," said softly, "we are family, and humans do not abandon family." Commander's face appeared on the station's communication screen. She was looking directly at Now, a slight smile on her lips. "Park," she said, "Captain sends her regards. She wants you to know she is proud of you." Felt tears forming in her eyes. She blinked them away quickly. "Please tell her I am sorry. I broke my promise. I revealed myself." She knows. She is not angry. In fact, her exact words were, "Some promises are meant to be broken." I believe she was quoting someone. Remembered saying those same words too in the recreational dome. Somehow, Captain had heard about it. Somehow, she had understood. "The Warlord will not return," Commander continued. "He values his life more than his pride. You are safe now." "Thank you, Commander. Thank you for coming." Commander shook her head. Do not thank me. Thank Captain. The moment she heard what happened, she contacted every human ship in the sector. She called in every favor she had. She was prepared to start a war for you. The screen went dark as the communication ended, but stood there for a long time, thinking about what the commander had said. A war. Captain had been prepared to start a war for a refugee girl and her brother. That was the human way, realized. They did not make empty promises. They did not offer protection they could not provide. When they said you were family, they meant it completely. Was still holding her sleeve. What happens now, sister? Looked down at him and smiled. For the first time in months, it was a smile without fear. Now, she said, we figure out what to do next. 1 week after the confrontation with Warlord, a transport ship arrived at Station Helix 9. It carried no weapons and flew no military flags. But when its passengers stepped onto the station, everyone who saw her straightened their posture and moved out of her way. Captain Park walked through the corridors of the academy with the quiet confidence of someone who had seen the worst the galaxy could offer and survived it. She was in her 50s now, her black hair streaked with gray, but her eyes were sharp and her movements were precise. She wore civilian clothes, but there was no hiding what she was. Soldiers recognized soldiers. Was waiting for her at the entrance to the residential wing. The moment she saw Captain, she ran forward and embraced her. It was not the formal greeting of a student to a teacher. It was the embrace of a daughter to her mother. I am sorry, whispered. I broke my promise. I revealed everything. Captain held her tightly. I know, little one, I know. You must be disappointed in me. Captain pulled back and looked its face. Her expression was not angry, it was proud. Disappointed. I watched that video 100 times. I showed it to everyone I know. You were magnificent. But you said I should never show them what I am. I said you should only show them when there was no other choice. Captain gently touched the side of his face. Your brother was hurt. He was bleeding on the ground. You had no other choice. You did exactly what I trained you to do. Appeared from behind, his arm still in its healing cast. He was shy around Captain, even after all these years. She was a commanding presence, and he had always been a little afraid of her. But Captain smiled warmly and opened her arms to him too. Come here, little warrior. Let me see that arm. Walked forward and let her examine his cast. Captain nodded approvingly. A clean break. It will heal well. You will be stronger for it. I did not fight back, said quietly. I was too scared. Good, you are not trained for combat. Running away was the right decision. Never be ashamed of survival. The three of them walked together to a quiet room overlooking the stars. Captain had requested this meeting in private, away from the academy staff and the other students. There were things they needed to discuss. I came here to make you an offer, Captain said once they were seated. The Earth Defense Coalition wants to give you an official position. You could become an instructor at our training facility on Nu. You could help train the next generation of soldiers. You would be paid well, respected, and protected. Listened carefully. It was a good offer, a safe life, a purpose. She would be doing what she loved, what she was trained for. She would be home, back on the planet where she had grown up. But something held her back. She looked at Captain. Can I ask you something? Anything. When you found us in that crash transport, why did you take us in? You did not know us. We were strangers. We were not even human. Why did you care? Captain was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than had ever heard it. Because I saw myself in you, she said. When I was young, I lost everything. My family, my home, my sense of safety. I was alone in a galaxy that did not care whether I lived or died. And then someone helped me. A stranger who had no reason to care. She took me in, trained me, gave me purpose. She saved my life. Captain looked at with warm eyes. I helped you because someone once helped me. That is how it works. We receive kindness and then we pass it on. That is what makes us human. Nodded slowly. She understood now. She understood what she needed to do. "I cannot accept your offer," she said. Captain did not look surprised. "Why not?" "Because there are others here like me and refugees, orphans, children from species that the galaxy has forgotten. They have no one to protect them. They have no one to teach them. If I leave, what happens to them?" Captain smiled. It was a proud smile, the smile of a teacher whose student had finally understood the lesson. "What will you do instead?" Stood and walked to the window. The stars stretched out before her, countless and beautiful. Somewhere out there were billions of beings, living their lives, fighting their battles, trying to survive. Most of them would never know her name, but some of them might. "I will stay here," she said. "I will start a program for refugee students. I will teach them what you taught me, not just fighting but the philosophy behind it, when to use violence and when to hold back, how to be strong without being cruel, how to protect others without losing yourself." She turned back to face Captain. "I want to do for them what you did for me." Captain rose from her chair and crossed the room. She placed her hands on shoulders and looked into her eyes. "That is very human of you," she said softly. The news spread quickly through the station. The quiet girl, the one who had defeated and his friends, the one who had been trained by humans, was starting a self-defense program for refugee students. Anyone who wanted to learn was welcome. Anyone who needed protection would receive it. On the first day, 20 students showed up. By the end of the week, there were 50. By the end of the month, there were more than 100. They came from species all over the galaxy. Some were small and weak. Some were large and strong. All of them shared one thing in common. They had been forgotten by the galaxy, left behind, dismissed as unimportant. Did not treat them as unimportant. She treated each one of them as worthy of protection, worthy of teaching, worthy of respect. Watched from a distance as conducted her classes. His arm was still in a healing cast, his shoulder slowly recovering from the damage she had done. His father had forbidden him from seeking revenge. The humiliation was complete. But something strange happened as the weeks passed. Found himself watching not with anger but with curiosity. He saw the way treated her students. She was patient with them. She encouraged them when they failed. She celebrated their successes. She never raised her voice or used her power to intimidate. She was strong, but she was not cruel. One day, gathered his courage and approached her after a training session. The other students tensed when they saw him coming. Some stepped forward, ready to protect their teacher. Raised her hand to stop them. "It is all right," she said calmly. "Let him speak." Stood before her, his eyes on the ground. It was hard for him to be here. Hard to face the girl he had tormented for months. "I want to apologize," he said. His voice was barely above a whisper. "What I did to your brother, what I did to you, it was wrong, I know that now." Studied him. She saw the shame in his eyes, the effort it had taken for him to come here. "Why are you apologizing now?" she asked. "Because you lost, because you are afraid of me." Shook his head. "No, because I watched you. I watched how you treat the students who come to learn from you. You could hurt them if you wanted. You could make them fear you, but you do not. You lift them up instead." He finally met her eyes. "I want to understand why." Was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something that surprised everyone watching. She smiled. "Because true strength is not about hurting others," she said. "It is about what you choose to protect. Anyone can destroy. The real challenge is to build something worth defending." She held out her hand. "If you truly want to understand, you are welcome to join my class, not as the son of a warlord, just as a student." Looked at her hand. He knew that taking it would change everything. His old friends would mock him. His father would be furious. His reputation as a powerful bully would be destroyed forever. But his reputation was already destroyed, and maybe that was not such a bad thing. He took her hand. The academy changed after that. It was a slow change, not dramatic or sudden, but gradually the atmosphere shifted. Students who had once been victims found their voices. Bullies who had once ruled through fear found themselves isolated and rejected. The strong began to protect the weak instead of preying on them. And word spread beyond Station Helix 9. Other stations, other academies, other planets heard about the girl who had been trained by humans. They heard about her program, her philosophy, her way of teaching strength without cruelty. The galaxy took notice. On the anniversary of her first day at the academy, received a message from New. It was from Captain. "I always knew you would change the galaxy," the message said. "I just did not know how. You have made me proud, little one. Not because of how well you fight, but because of how well you teach. That is humanity's greatest export, you know. Not weapons or ships or technology, but the willingness to stand for those who cannot stand alone. You understand that now. You are truly one of us." Read the message 3 times. Then she put down her communication device and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Captain was raising a glass to her. Somewhere out there, Warlord was telling his officers to never underestimate humans again. Somewhere out there, a galaxy that had once seemed cold and cruel was slowly, gradually, learning a different way. And here on Station Helix 9, stood at the window with by her side, watching the light of distant suns. Sister said, "Are you happy?" Thought about everything that had happened, the suffering, the training, the fear, the violence, the moment she had finally revealed what she was. And then she thought about what had come after, the students who looked up to her, the changes she was making, the future she was building. "Yes," she said, "I am happy." Leaned against her. "Good, you deserve to be happy." Put her arm around him. She looked at the stars and smiled. This was not the life she had expected. It was not the life Captain had planned for her, but it was the life she had chosen, and it was good. The galaxy was vast and often unkind, but kindness could spread too, pass from one person to another like a flame. That was the human way. And now it was her way too.